Okay, let's talk about the guests at Aretha Franklin's funeral. You had together on stage. We'll just talk about the ones on stage, the political reasonings for it. Minister Louis Farrakhan, ex-president Bill Clinton, Reverend Al Sharpton, and Reverend Jesse Jackson. What do they have in common? Okay, I tell you what they have in common. Each belong to an administration or organization or movement that has crippled the black community in America. And I tell you how. He said, well, how did Louis Farrakhan cripple the black community in America? Well, you know, Louis Farrakhan didn't make it any better, but he personally didn't cripple the black community, but he represents the Nation of Islam. And the Nation of Islam was set up and designed by the government to start the gangs in America. It was also, now it's a threefold reason what the Nation of Islam does, okay, that cripples the black community. One thing, okay, we had Marcus Garvey, the Hebrew Israelites, and the Nation of Islam back in the days. Now, we're Native American, but we were told a lie that we're from Africa. So anybody promoting Pan-Africanism and that we're from Africa, they got the right to call the white man all kind of names and start businesses and movements, as long as they kept with the narrative that we were from Africa. And so the Nation of Islam was a part of that, along with the Hebrew Israelites back in the day. So you got to remember back then, especially in the days of Marcus Garvey, it was illegal to say that you were Native American. At the time, it was illegal. If you weren't on a reservation, you could not say that you were a Native American, or you would get lynched, or you would be incarcerated. Those were the rules. So they were promoting heavily this African concept to take us away from our true identity. So that's why these groups at first were formed. You had the Hebrew Israelites and the Nation of Islam. Factions of those were broken down to later form the gangs, the gangster disciples, and they still carry the signs. They carried the signs of the Hebrew Israelites, the 6-point Star of David, and the Nation of Islam. A faction of that broke off and started the Black Stones, and they still carry the signs. The same signs the Nation of Islam carries and Muslim nations carry. That flag, that's a sign of the Black Stone street gang. So these were started by the government, the organizations first of all, and then the gangs were started by the government. Okay, just to give you a little history of what's happening. We are indigenous people. So anybody that's saying that we're African, you get instantly broadcast and promoted. So that was back in the day. And then another thing was the white God thing. This is the Nation of Islam. This is not Minister Louis Farrakhan. This is before his time. But they were saying that Fard Muhammad was God walking around on earth, and he was white. So that was another thing that crippled the mind of black people. You know, so we got the African falsehood going. We got the white God walking around on earth falsehood going, and we got the gangs going on. This is what the Nation of Islam helped the United States do. You know, all gangs are started by the government. You know, the FBI runs every gang in this country today. So he was on stage to represent the Nation of Islam and its role in the destruction of the black people. Also was Al Sharpton. He's the voice of pacification in the community today. Just like Jesse Jackson, another guest at the forefront. He's the voice of black pacification of yesterday. And he started the African American name. So you know, that's real high esteem. He started the name African American, which is a very dangerous name for us. It labels us as undocumented immigrants. Now, you know, they're starting to get technical about this stuff. They can have ICE, you know, coming in on us. Because I'm going to tell you something. If it weren't for social media, they'll still be telling us crap like, oh, well, there's no racism. You lucky you're here. Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves. You should be happy. We had affirmative action and da-da-da-da-da. You know, all of this stuff. But if it weren't for social media, white Americans wouldn't be saying that, oh yeah, well, there is racism. They wouldn't admit that. They didn't have a social, a moral awakening all of a sudden. Now the world sees what's happening over here, so you have to admit it. Yeah, there is racism. But now this is a dangerous part, because while there's racism and you're still not doing anything about it, police still killing black people and getting away with it, social media or not. So what's the next step? This is the dangerous part. We're coming to a crossroads here. You might as well make it into law. You know, we still got racism. We got police killing blacks, and we're not doing nothing about it. Hell, we might as well write it into law. You know, so we have to be careful. But we got that name African American to take our citizenship status away from us. And you can't send us to Africa, so what do? You send ICE on us and put us in the penitentiary, slave labor. It's going on today. So that's Jesse Jackson's role. He gave us the African American name. We didn't want that. He gave us that. You know, they've been working on it for years, man. These people think decades and centuries in advance. And so he gave him the stick in 1988. And since then, that name has been said everywhere. You know, they stay away from saying black, Negro, anything else. They just African American. They just, you know, kill us with that name. Bill Clinton is another one. He was on the stage. Now, what did Bill Clinton do? Okay, 3 strikes. You know, the new legalization of black slave labor. Oh yeah, that was under Bill Clinton's administration. And keep in mind, when I say this, it's not anything that these 4 are doing. Some people believe presidents are chosen, not elected. You know, but his administration, while he was in office, was responsible for that. It's people still in jail from the time where he was president. You know, so this was a whole government just trying to show off. You know, saying, okay, these are the people that they was basically saluting these people, giving them honors, saluting them. You know, for being a part of movements that crippled the black people and helped to get us at the state that we are in today. You know, that 3 strikes you're out, and that started the whole war on blacks. He was involved with all of that. You remember, you're talking about people being separated from their children. A child could fall on the ground on the way to school, and next thing you know, they're taking 5 babies from a mother who didn't know anything about that. You know, there was a full-on attack under Bill Clinton of black babies, millions of black babies, and you got these slave people talking about, oh well, they need to stop separating immigrants from their children. Wow, where were you in the 90s? Where were you during the ages of Bill Clinton? You know, wow, it's unbelievable. And these are black people doing this. We'll do anything that the master tells us to do. We don't stand up for yourself, but stand up for anybody else. That's just like us saying, wait a minute, you can't separate from them from their children and treat them like black people. Those are immigrants. How dare you? You know, so Bill Clinton, yeah, under his administration, millions of black babies were torn from the arms of their parents. And, you know, so that's those 4. You got Minister Louis Farakahn, the Nation of Islam, representing the Nation of Islam, which was a catalyst to start the gangs in America, was you know, going with the white God concept in America and claiming that the indigenous blacks are from Africa. That's a part of what the Nation of Islam has started for this country. And then you have Jesse Jackson. He gave us the name African American. He just went and wrote it in, you know. Well, that's what they told him to do, actually. You know, so he represents that. You got Al Sharpton. He's the modern day pacifist. You know, he pacifies the black community now. And then you got Bill Clinton, which led into the modern day mass incarceration movement and the kidnapping of millions of black children from their family. And they were all on stage together. That's the government showing out and showing itself. Then who else do we have? Barack Obama, the worst of them all. The worst. He put us to sleep. He put us to sleep so bad. Some people will just by me saying he was a bad guy. Some people, you know, blacks will get into shock and have a hissy fit after all of the negative things that happened under that man's administration. You know, we went backwards. Homosexuals and immigrants and foreigners got all of the aid that was supposed to go to the black community. And keep in mind, in the country, the word is don't give blacks anything. We just have to come up with a way to outsource it. So then during the Obama administration, the LGBT and homosexual community got all of these funds. And you know, that doesn't go to black homosexuals. I want to keep that in mind. This just goes back to Caucasian people. You know, it goes back to the rich. They start these non-for-profits. But they always use black homosexuals to parade it around so that you can associate minority black with this homosexual cause. And so when they give all this money towards the homosexual causes, in your mind you'll say, okay, well, that's going to black people. And it is not. If you want to give something to black homosexuals, give it to black people, and the homosexuals will advance also. But that didn't happen. A lot of schools got closed. Only thing that went up in Obama's era is incarceration, like never before. Worse than the Clinton era. He had the most people in prison, most black people in prison than ever before in the history. And we were asleep. So he closed down our schools so you can outsource the money that would have went to those neighborhoods for those schools to other neighborhoods. You put a ridiculous curriculum in there. You call this new math, and then you're not even teaching the babies how to write in cursive anymore. And you got this thing you call, what is that? Toxic masculinity. To where you're basically saying, no, boy, don't walk with your chest out. Walk like this. You know, you're teaching young boys at an impressionable age how to be feminine. You know, that's running around in the schools. So, you know, Flint, Michigan, I can go, the list goes on and on. But, you know, because Flint, Michigan was an attack on black businesses. Black businesses were flourishing in Flint, Michigan. So it was an attack on that. And the list just goes on and on of the things that we got nothing from the Obama administration. Gave it all, everything that is considered black went to homosexuals, or foreigners, or immigrants. And incarceration went up. And black people are still in a daze saying, well, you know what that is? Massa told you to like him. That's what that is. And Massa told you to hate Trump. No matter what he does, he could just save the whole black community, let everybody out of jail. But Massa told you to hate him. We have to get over that conditioning. Black people, it's time to wake up. So that whole set on that stage was the powers that be boasting and bragging. Look at what we have here. You know, that's their talk, how they talk to each other. And then you had Obama, the worst of them all. The Kenyans don't even want him over there. And they have a sellout government. They have a sellout president. Most African nations have sellout leaders, just like Obama, puppet leaders. But he's going over there talking about, well, I'll give you some funding if you say homosexuality is okay and take some of your laws against it off the books. And if you start having abortion clinics all over the place. This is what Obama's doing in Africa, and they don't want him over there. They do not like him over there at all. They think he represents evil forces and all kind of rigmarole. They say, you know, when he's set to arrive, buildings start getting burnt all of a sudden, and you know, girls start coming up missing. You know, this is the type of mess that he's promoting around the earth. You know, that's Obama. So they had all of these people here, black people, and the only president that most blacks voted for twice, and people will say that was the real first black president, Bill Clinton. And all of these people here represent organizations that basically hoodwinked the black community. You know. So that's what that was all about, people. We got to wake up. It's time for us to wake up. The immigration never helped black people. In matter of fact, immigration was set up. We do need to learn our history in order to keep black people at the bottom and in a slave status in this country. Yet and still, your master tells you, well, they shouldn't treat those people like black people, separating them from their babies. Let more immigrants over here, and then the slave will parrot the master. Yeah, let more immigrants over here. We shouldn't have no borders. Let all the immigrants over here, so they can take your money, because that's what they do. The Caucasians don't give them their money. They give them your money, your taxes, your property, your neighborhoods, Compton and Watts. They give them that. And we have the nerve to say, yes, sir, massa, bring some more, sir. Abortions killed a lot of black babies. Massa say he likes abortions, and the slave is going to say, yes, sir, massa, we want more abortions, massa. It's time for us to wake up. They look upon us as a joke. Show them what you got, Black America. Wake up. It's time.